Okay, I just want to put this out there so that, some of y'all can actually know for a fact if you are or you aren't. If by the end of this episode, you as a guy, I guess also if you're a woman, listen and don't feel like doing any self-reflecting, there's a pretty high chance that you are actually very delusional, or just, like you're just sitting in your delulu, or maybe you just have some of the best self-confidence on the planet and you're just that great. But to be quite honest, this one feels like it's more self-reflection than even analysis, because oftentimes we're always about analyzing the other person. Oh, are they red flags? Aren't they red flags? But when you really come down to it, maybe you might be the red flag that is making all the other flags, not look all that great. Maybe it's you that's the problem. But, then again, this is a discussion that requires a little bit more expansion and a video and also an intro, because where the fuck are my manners? I should have started with one. Welcome to the Breakdown Podcast, where I talk about love, sex, and relationships from a guy's perspective, as well as a bunch of other guy shit. The man on the mic is Sir Denver B. This is a shorter, less edity, no instrumentally version of the podcast where I basically handled one topic, discuss it, and, just post it up with very minimal editing and no instrumentals, because I recorded this at some point in time, and this is one of those episodes that I get to push out because I'm on break and I'm not doing the full episodes. But, all of that said and done, for those of y'all that haven't been listening to these, they're actually a pretty nice and chill way for me to do an episode without having to, do a full episode, if I can call it that. Now, I'm going to be very honest. Like, people in the dating market always talk about, such and such is a red flag, so and so is a good person, so and so isn't a good person. But oftentimes, people fail to recognize their own flaws. They will complain about someone, they will say someone is good or bad, or, reject someone because they're just not feeling them. But the question that we oftentimes forget to ask ourselves is if we are actually good dateable partners. We can complain that someone didn't stick around, or that the other person was not all that nice, or, you just didn't like how someone looked. But the question is, would you date you? And this actually came up because I was watching a reel on IG where a guy who normally tends to talk about women quite a bit decided to come back, and he was like, men, we talk about women all this time, but the question is, would you date you? Now, I am going to let the clip play, then I can give my thoughts on it, because I feel like in as much as dude actually did discuss it pretty well, I feel like we can go a little bit deeper into this, and maybe, just maybe, we might actually find some insights that weren't mentioned. But either way, let me let the clip play, then I can get into my thoughts on it. So without further ado,
today we have, would you date you? I hear too much chatter out there today of blaming women for the problems in dating today. So the question at hand is, would you date you? There's 4 billion plus men on the planet. Out of all the options women have, would you date you? Because there's a lot of you out there, you don't deserve a good girl. You don't deserve any woman. You're out of shape, you make no fucking money, you can't take care of yourself, much less take care of a woman. What are you expecting? So, if the answer is yes, you would date you, but you have no current options. You don't have women hitting you up or coming up to you, or when you go and approach women, none of them are successful attempts, then you are delusional. Because if you're a high quality man, some woman will want to date you. It's the bottom line, because there's not enough high quality men out there. They are scarce today. So if the answer is no, you would not date you, amazing. You got your work cut out for you. But the beauty of that is you can only go up. It's time to get in the gym. It's time to start walking more. It's time to go make some fucking money. It's time to start grooming yourself better. Get yourself a nice little haircut. Stop looking like a slob. Cut your fingernails. Get yourself some clothes that fit right. So there's a lot of things that are inside your control to become the man that a woman would date. But there's a lot of you out there that don't deserve to date a woman right now. You got a lot of work to do. For a lot of you, if the answer is yes, you're fucking delusional. But if the answer is no, you got to get to work. So get out there and get after it. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk today, and I'll see you at the same time again tomorrow.
Okay. Particularly interesting insights there. And the fact that he decided to turn it on the men, I think, is a pretty nice twist for quite a number of us, because let me speak for me and probably a bunch of other guys. usually we will hear a lot of these guys busy talking about, oh, there's this and this problem with women, there's this and this problem with women. But oftentimes we will find that these guys do not turn the observant eye towards men. And it is something that I have noticed. And, granted, I also do try to do my own self-analysis, and I will also try to turn things around to other men. But it is something that a lot of guys that do speak up about dating and relationships for men usually avoid doing. So I love the fact that he did that. But considering that his video was an IG reel, I can understand that he couldn't say too much about it. Now, me on the other hand, who seems to be doing an entire podcast episode, I can take a little bit more time on this and actually go deeper. But let me start by trying to answer the question, at least on a more general level. Now, the whole would you date you thing, when you apply it to guys, you usually end up with two different sets of guys. Of course, there's the yeses, there's the nos. I would probably argue that if you ask most guys at a glance, they'd say yes. But if you decide to rephrase the question and twist it a little bit, a lot of them might end up saying no. Let me put it like this. When you look at most guys, not unless if the guy is a fuckboy or the guy isn't all that interested in like dating and shit, for the most part, if you ask another guy, like, would you date you? A lot of times they'd probably be like, yeah, I think I'm a pretty dope dude. I won't cause too many fusses or anything, blah, blah, blah. But for the most part, like, it's not like you'd get a bunch of guys to be like, no, I wouldn't date myself. Not unless if they just don't think that they are in the phase where they should be dating, or if they know for a fact that they're a hoe or that they have problems and shit. But now, to get a more accurate answer, it's usually best to kind of try and rephrase it and kind of bring up the whole question in a different way by including the presence of a woman that is close to them in their lives. So, for example, like a sister or a close cousin or a close female friend. And then at that point, you rephrase the question and say, would you want someone that has the exact same behaviors and characteristics as you to be dating that woman? Now, at that point, the guys that will usually say yes are either just genuinely good guys and they know that they're good guys and they're confident in themselves, or dudes that are a little bit delulu. But for the most part, a lot of guys would probably say no. Not because that most guys are bad, but because a lot of guys do feel like, if they do have like a female friend or a close female in their lives, then they can definitely get a guy that is probably a lot better. Not because they're bad, but because they believe that, you can probably find a good mate that has very good characteristics and they themselves know how flawed they are individually. So as a question that you decide to ask someone else, I feel like it'll always have varied results based on one of those two parameters that I've brought up, whether they ask it directly or indirectly by including a close female individual. But even with that being a factor, I don't think that it's actually a bad thing if guys say that they wouldn't date themselves. Mostly because a lot of times it might not be that, you either are a bad person or you have bad character traits. It could just be a situation where you just feel like you're not the best version of yourself just yet. And oftentimes, if that's the case, then it means that you probably might be working towards something better, or you have an interest in working towards something better, which goes to the part where he was saying, like, this is your chance to lock in, go and make some changes and make yourself a hell of a lot better. And when you kind of look at it, getting to what makes a man attractive, according to men, usually requires a couple of basics. It's usually just stuff like get your money up, go work out and build your confidence. And for the most part, on one end, when you look at that, it is actually good. Like, it is good, solid advice for you to go and do that. But on the other end, there's other smaller bits about yourself that are character flaws, but you tend to think that you can kind of ignore them. But when you ask yourself such a question, it does kind of force you to look a little bit inward. So things like, are you an insecure person? How do you handle rejection? How do you treat people when they aren't doing anything particularly useful in your life? So, like the people that might be support staff or people that depend on you, how do you treat them? Things like that are things that will basically show whether you are a good example of a guy. And I believe that self-analysis on that level is also quite crucial, and it is something that more and more men should definitely do, because there's guys that are actually doing like the basics right. Like they are working out and they look good, they are making pretty good money and their confidence is all the way up there. But the problem is they fail on a character level because they haven't honed in on, developing good character, having a good personality, handling certain situations a lot better than others. And oftentimes, such guys will think that they are so good, but they're not getting it as good. And they're like, no, but what's wrong? What's the problem? And yet the problem is them and the fact that they're not looking deeper than they actually should have been in the first place. And when you look at a question like this, it's kind of the best ones where it's like, okay, I did look at this question and it was a very quick no on me, but it's probably the best no that I can get, because you can finally actually ask yourself what it is that you need to change or make better in your life, or just to yourself, so that you can make yourself a more attractive individual. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that if you do all of this, you'll turn into a guy in finance who's 6'5" with blue eyes and a great personality, but at least it puts you on a path towards being a more attractive version of yourself than what you currently are. And the reason I say this is because oftentimes a lot of people usually tend to think that what it is that makes a man attractive, or what it is that makes people attractive, is like, like having great looks or being particularly tall. And, considering that some of us might have been called attractive because we embody some of those traits, might, seem a bit misleading. But at least one thing that I can probably say for a fact does make people attractive is usually like a set of three that kind of just works quite well, which is being confident, having a purpose, and having fun while chasing the purpose. So to some degree, like if you are actually putting in the work and having fun while at it and still trying to be a better person every day, I do think that the question of would you date you becomes a lot easier for you to answer, because it's a much easier yes, or even though it's a no, you're like, no, but I'm working towards making that a much better option. Or at least you're like, no, but at least I know that I'm working towards making that more of a yes. And if you do that and you're having fun while at it, I feel like it'll be very easy for you to be attractive to one person and eventually even more and more people as time goes on. Because it's not a looks thing. Sometimes attraction is more of an aura thing than a looks thing. And we've seen this happen lots of times before. You'll usually hear guys talking about sex appeal. You will hear women busy talking about big dick energy and having aura. So when you look at it, it's not that it has to be a looks thing. Sometimes it's just an aura thing. So to kind of conclude all of this, what I am trying to say is you may not be the perfect option for some people, and maybe you shouldn't be. But if you're putting in the work and you're having fun while at it, then you're probably way ahead, and you might even be better than whatever it is that is some person's idea of what a perfect someone is supposed to be. And even though you're not, when you kind of think about it, you're still having fun while at it and you're still a better person for it. So either way, it is still a win on your side. But then again, I could be wrong about this, just the same way I could be wrong about a bunch of other things. So either way, I want your thoughts on it. The DMs are open on IG. It is at the Breaktime_podcast. On Facebook, it is at the Breaktime Podcast. On X, it is at Bagaka the D. And on Bluesky, it is at the breaktimepod.bsky.social. Thank you so much for listening all the way till the end, and I will catch you guys on the next break.